Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Move Forward Anyway podcast, featuring dream accelerating inspiration. I'm Jeff Meyer, your host, author, entrepreneur, and coach. My goal with this podcast is to help you identify and clarify your own dream by taking wisdom from others' successes and challenges. If you're looking to take action on your dream, to make a difference doing something you love, but your fears are holding you back, then this podcast is for you. If you're interested in finding additional support, you can also check out my Dream Accelerator coaching program designed to help realize your full potential and reshape your future. As always, you can learn more about my Dream Accelerator program at jeffmeyer.org. Using my Dream Accelerating formula, heart-centered entrepreneurs can focus on their dream, name their fears, change their mindset, define their next, and move forward anyway. Welcome back, fellow dreamers. It's really good to be back with you again. Another episode of the Move Forward Anyway podcast, where we dive into the awesome stories of entrepreneurs like my guest today, Brian Robinson. And we're very, very thankful, Brian, that you're with us today. Why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Well, like Jeff just said, my name is Brian Robinson. I'm with Perfect Grounds, LLC, Knoxville, Tennessee.
And when you say Perfect Grounds, the first time I heard the name, I was thinking coffee, right? But your business doesn't, maybe you consume coffee and help other people's coffee businesses, but your Perfect Grounds LLC is about what? What do you do exactly?
Well, it's about your grounds, your home, the place that surrounds you, place of people's dreams, where they get their peace. And we want to leave them better than we found them. Perfect Grounds is not just a name, it's a statement.
I love it. You leave it perfect for them. Do you do mostly residential? Do you do commercial property as well?
So we started off as just a residential tree service. In 2001, when we started, my wife was wanting to get me out of tree work. So we picked up doing mowing and landscaping and things of that nature. All that, we do some small landscapes from time to time, but for the most part, we sold the mowing side off, sold those contracts. Trees have taken over and stayed a constant. So that's where we have always felt led to be. So
you're back in the trees?
Oh, yes, sir. We have always been foremost a tree service. And that's always been, no matter what we've done outside of that, that's always been the thing in the background that has been the thing that you can lean on at any given point. So
2001, you started this. What was going on in your life at that time that you decided to start this? Tell us the genesis story of Perfect Grounds.
So I was a climber for another local tree service, had been for a long time. I was doing work on the side, and it was always a dream to own my own business. I wanted to do something for myself. So my wife and I got together, and like I said, we talked about doing other things, and I didn't want to have to climb trees forever. The person that I worked for was so good to us all the way through the process. We sat down with him through slow times. He fed us small jobs, things of that nature, just to kind of keep us going. Very supportive, and he was an integral part of what we did.
So that's a wonderful statement to that person, that he wasn't threatened by you starting your own thing. He actually encouraged you to do it. Why did you want to own your own business? Why was that a dream of yours?
In my industry, what I was doing seemed to have a cap. I could only make that kind of money for so long, as I was able to do the physical side. And I knew that from watching him as an owner, eventually you would bring other people in to do the physical side of it. He told me at one point that you can either be an owner or an operator. You can't do both all the time. So you have to be able to lean in on the people that you have around you and working with you.
And it was more appealing for you long term, where there's a higher ceiling to be an owner than to be an operator, especially in that industry, right? I mean, our bodies can only climb trees for so long, and they start breaking down, and it's hard work.
It's very, very physical. Yes.
So you started in 2001. You've been doing it now for 21 years. Talk to me about what you and Amy were experiencing as you thought about launching out and starting your own adventure. What kind of hesitations did you have? What kind of fears did you experience as you took that big step?
So I was 26 or 27 years old, still very young, and may I be brutally honest?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I was a very lost person. I'd never known God. I was an addict. I don't think I had a whole lot of, I mean, you're trying to look towards the future and what I had seen the guys that had brought me into the business and what they were looking like as they got older and still trying to do the same job. That's what kind of led towards that. But in 2004, my wife and I were desperate to get clean and get away from the life we were living. And I didn't know anything about prayer. My wife was naturally tied. She wasn't able to have children. And she asked me to pray for us one night. And I stumbled and bumbled through that with what I knew. And we now have an 18-year-old daughter whose name is Faith.
Faith?
Yep. She was born.
Oh, man, I love that.
My wife got pregnant almost immediately after that prayer.
Wow.
We had Faith in 2004, and in 2005, John, the guy that I had worked for all those years, got liver cancer and asked me to partner with him and come back on because he needed help. He had to have a liver transplant. And,
yeah. Wow.
And we continued that partnership till almost 6 years ago. He passed away.
Wow.
And then it was, and we've been clean, and I found Jesus, besides just with her. And she grew up in the church that we go to currently. And it's just amazing the road that I've watched God travel with me on to get me to that place so that I could learn about him. And what we've done through believing and is just astounding. The growth is averaging about 70% a year over the last 5 years. So.
Wow, that is a tremendous transformational story. Your entrepreneurial story is much more than just starting a business. It's a journey with Jesus, and came out of a place of desperation, and God has provided. Even I just love that God hears our stumbling prayers. He hears our feeble attempts to cry out for help, and he's just glad that you asked, right? That is such a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. And go ahead.
And the word says that He will bless us more than we can ask or think.
Mm.
One of the things that, as of just a residential tree service, you asked me about doing commercial stuff. We were trying to get into that kind of venture, and I had something come across my path that felt really led to do. Wasn't sure how, and it involved just land clearing on a large scale. It was for a government contract, and I actually went to our pastor and had a meeting with him about it. And at the end of that meeting, he said, "I want to tell you that God dropped this in my spirit, that I think that you'll get this contract, but whether you do or not, something better is coming your way." I left that meeting, and as I was pulling out of the parking lot, I got a phone call from a developer out of North Carolina that wanted us to do a project in Texas.
In Texas?
Yeah. And we're in the East Tennessee.
Developer in Carolina to do a job in Texas. Okay, yeah. I'm listening.
So I flew down to take a look at the project. It was very overwhelming, very large, heavily overgrown. And I had 7 men, including myself, didn't own anything but chainsaws and weed eaters. I mean, nothing specific, but I drove to the end of a cul-de-sac that a regular road only had just a tunnel to drive through of all the overgrowth. And I got to the end of that road and I was like, okay, so God, this has got to be, I don't understand. You've set all this in my pathway just almost immediately after that meeting. And I don't know how to make this work.
And I'm unqualified.
And I'm unqualified. And a pickup truck was driving down the road towards me. And there was a lawn service that was there to mow a water treatment facility that attached to that place, had an easement through there. And as they were unloading, I just asked them if they'd be interested in taking over part of this project. And the guy said yes and became an amazing contact. Anyway, long story short, they gave us 21 days to do this project. We did it in 19. At the end of the project, days. Yeah, and as they saw that we were going to make it, they added other things on, and we just completed everything with excellence. That's what I strive for in everything we do. And as it was finishing up, the developer told me that every other contractor had turned this project down. That everybody said it was impossible, it couldn't be done. And I never gave up. On day one, I got on my knees on the project and picked up dirt and said, "Lord, you brought us to this place. It must surrender." And yeah. Man, it just
show me how, Lord.
So I wish I could show you pictures. These are for land sale companies. They buy large tracts, you clean them, they do a one-day land sale, sell them off. On the day of that sale, a hurricane came up through Houston. One of the owners knows I'm a believer and asked me to pray about the weather. We did a story about this at church. You can see on the radar that there are two, now we're in the eye of the storm, and there are two clear spots. One was the meeting spot where everybody gathered, and then you drive through the storm and the property was clear. They had a big sellout, made great money, and it sent us on into the whirlwind that the last 5 years have been. It's been an amazing ride, but just through belief.
That was in 2016?
Yes.
Wow. Was that hurricane, is it Harvey?
Oh, that was 2017. And yes, I think it was Harvey.
Harvey, 27. I know friends. I was just in Houston last Friday, And I know friends who went through that horrible storm and all the flooding that happened in Houston.
We were just outside of Austin in a town called Marble Falls on Lake LBJ.
Okay. Wow. So there's so much to unpack there. In our entrepreneurial journeys, we are sometimes given opportunities to do impossible things that we don't feel qualified for, things that we haven't done before, that are new. We don't have the right equipment, maybe. But you went in there with faith, not your daughter, but faith in God, confidence that he gave it to you, and that he was going to show you how. He was going to lead the way.
There's something about power, yes.
So talk to me about what you learned from him, what new skills you picked up, what new equipment you had to get. What did you learn from that project that has helped you now the next 6 years?
So obviously we needed larger pieces of equipment to help along that way. We had to rent our way through that one and just figure it out as we went. Once that project was finished, we purchased a forestry mulcher. We've bought chippers and dump trucks and skid steers, and I mean, just bukus of stuff. I mean, it's been quite the ride. And I've learned so much. I mean, you learn about roads, you learn, because I mean, we got in with once we finished that one, we actually got in with another developer, and we've worked for them both simultaneously. But the second one, he's out of the same area, and he wants us to be heavily involved in all aspects, from helping with the roadways. We've helped with paving. We've helped with getting all the infrastructure in and so in this process, I've learned how actual development itself works, not just in doing land clearing. But so at this point, if you look us up, we're Perfect Grounds LLC. It's a land clearing, development, and tree service. And at this point, I'm still believing that that's another area we're headed. I think that at some point we'll do these full blown for ourselves.
Yeah, willing to do the impossible.
And today, I couldn't tell you how that happens today. I have no idea, but I mean, I couldn't tell you how that happened then either. So
we'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, got the power of yes.
That's the part of that's the power of yes. Yeah, you get to figure it out. I love the ingenuity. I think I'm just wondering how different your life would be if you would have just settled to stay an operator. If you would have just decided, I'm just going to be an operator, instead of taking the risk, making the investment to be an owner, how would your life be different today?
It would it'd probably be a lot simpler. I'd be working for somebody else.
Yeah, true.
But we would be capped. Once again, I get back to that. I mean, so there was a point in my life that we were going through all this and buying the equipment and everything, and I sowed a seed at church through prayer beyond my tithe towards what we were wanting to do. And in a prayer session, I know it sounds, people don't like to hear you say God said, but I'm telling you, God said, you double that and I'll double you. Well, I've seen that. I mean, without any reservation whatsoever. I mean, it was almost an immediate, okay, here you go. Hold on, buckle your seatbelt. Here we go. The ride is on.
Yeah.
And I've wanted him to tell me that again. If he'd tell me to double it today, I would. I'm telling you, regardless. the seed that we sow, the tithe opens the windows of heaven. We're taught that the seed that you sow determines what comes through it.
Mm.
And man, you put it back in his court, follow his word, you better hold on. Man, you got to be careful what you pray for, because you're faithful. He's going to do it, and then you better be
It
willing.
would have been much simpler to be an operator.
Mm.
Yeah, and much less fulfilling, and so much less growth personally, spiritually, professionally, to just keep grinding, doing the thing for someone else, than to be the one that makes the decisions to double down and go for it, move forward anyway. That's
stand
awesome.
When I stand here in my home today and look at my surroundings and look across our yard that all of our equipment stays at, and the buildings and the trailers and all the stuff that goes along with it, I'm still just mind blown. People that come in here and come to work for you or don't really know you and come to visit of some sort, they just see that you're doing well, and probably never would believe you if you said, I still can't imagine this, but I can't. I mean, it's so much more than I could ever imagine or think of. It's amazing. My wife keeps worship music playing constantly in our home. It never stops. This is a place of peace, and just I'm in awe of what God will do for you every day.
That's amazing. What a great story. So, obviously, God has been an instrumental part in your encouragement to keep moving forward, to take risks, to try the unthinkable, to say yes, even when you have no idea how you're going to accomplish it. We in my Dream Accelerator program, we talk about making the offer, saying yes to the opportunity in front of you before you perfect it. So many people want to perfect their offer or figure out how to do everything before they do anything, and they don't really know that it's needed. Your story is, you said yes, and then you figured it out consistently along the way. So God's been a big part of that. What else has helped you along the way? You mentioned this gentleman who died 6 years ago, who was a partner, his encouragement to you. Who else has been there to support you in your journey?
I've got to tell you, he thought I was absolutely crazy when I took on the out of town stuff. He decided I was going to do it. He thought that was, he's like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's more. And I still today feel like there's more. Like I said earlier, I don't know how, but I just know in here. And you said something a minute ago about people wanting to perfect it and know how it's going to go. Well, that's not how God works at all. He's never took somebody that knew exactly what they were going to do and sent them. I mean, Moses had to step into the Red Sea before it ever split. He didn't stand there and wait on it to split. He had to step.
Yeah.
And I work around people who unknowingly sometimes work off of biblical basis, not even as believers.
Yeah.
They put that positivity to work, but it is so biblical. And as long as we do that, it's like I said earlier, as long as we step out in faith and do what he's calling us to do, regardless, just go. He'll equip you as you go. So, as far as people who have been huge in my life, as far as speaking things into my wife, is number one.
Yeah.
She's the one that had that basis in those belief systems way before I ever knew what they were, and has continually spoke that into every time I've ever had doubts or how in the world will we do this, we'll just do it. And so I've learned a lot from her on that. my pastor
Mm.
has always made himself readily available to speak, to answer questions, give me correction when needed. People don't like correction very much, but every now and then we've got to be put into place. I was trying to beat myself up for a little while over my past, and he's the one that stepped in and said, "You know what? You told me about this several times now. It's time to quit talking about it."
Yep.
Sometimes like your program, you got to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And just do it. Wanting something for my children. I've had employees that have spoken into my life, that whether knowingly or not, there's things out there if you're listening.
Yeah.
But as far as inspiration, I don't really have any. I've never met anybody that does what we do, especially when it comes to these land clearing projects. It's not typical the way that we do them. I was blessed to be able to be a part of the land sales separate of the land clearing. So that let me know what customers were looking for, what they needed to be able to push them over the edge. What was it going to take? And standing out on our property one morning, as it was near completion, the sun was coming up over the lake. We had perfect view out through the water, view lanes cut. We don't remove any of the large mature trees. We just accentuate them. And standing out there praying and watching the sun come up, and it occurred to me that we reveal dreams. People are coming to these land sales looking for their dream home, their second home, the place that they want to be able to relax and spend their time. And till the moment that we got there, it was hidden. And that's kind of the way that he's always worked. He hides things along our paths. And I'm one of the people he's chosen to be able to expose that for others. And that's such a blessing in itself.
I love that. So you actually reveal what's hidden. You make visible what's unattainable for folks. And not just with land, obviously, I think also spiritually. And the big takeaway as I've listened to you today is that whether we realize it or not, whether we're willing to admit it or not, the entrepreneurial journey is a spiritual journey.
Oh, yes.
It's a journey of faith, right?
It really is.
And he has revealed himself over and over again to you and made himself more clear in your journey as you've gone out and done these things. He's shown himself to be faithful, to back up what he tells you, and that's beautiful. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'd like to ask you one more question today, if I could. There are people listening to this podcast that have been thinking about doing something on their own, using your language. They've been an operator for many years, and the idea of being an owner of something is nagging them. They've tried to push it down. They've tried to suppress it. They've tried to distract themselves from hearing it, but it keeps popping up. And every time they give themselves an opportunity to think about owning something, they're afraid and they try to ignore it. What would you say to them as they're listening to this podcast episode today? What word would you like to speak into their life?
Quit ignoring God's calling. People are called to do all kinds of things. People are called into the ministry. People are called into service. Quit ignoring his calling. He will equip you. He will show you, but you have to step out.
That's awesome. I just wrote that down. Quit ignoring God's calling. He will equip you. He will show you. You have to step out.
He's never gonna do it unless you're willing to go. And you have to show him. Our pastor told us one time, if you want to travel, you don't have the funds, you don't have the way, you don't know how it's going to happen, start by getting your passport.
Hmm.
You have to equip yourself mentally to be ready for whatever that is. And if you don't step out and go, and you'll screw it up. We make mistakes. We're still human beings, and you're going to do things that are wrong. And you may have to step back, but just stay faithful and stay prayerful and listen. Because that same unction that is pushing you to do whatever it is you're doing will be there with you all the way through it. And like I said, I'm not anywhere near done. I'm still believing and pushing. And when that door opens, I will jump through it. It's going to happen. Was kind of encouraged today in my reading about David. I thought that it was kind of fit in here somehow, and I wasn't sure how that was going to fit in, but he was the least of the brothers, but he was the one that was called.
Mm. And, little boy, the slingshot. Yeah.
So he
didn't even use all the armor that all the other soldiers would have used. I don't need that armor. It doesn't fit. It's going to slow me down.
But even beyond Goliath, he was called to be the king of all of Israel.
Yeah.
And even with all of his mistakes as a king.
Yeah. With all of his flaws,
murder and everything else that took place in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he, as a faithful believer, fulfilled what God had called him to do before he left this earth. Once he had fulfilled his calling, he passed as an old man. But he never quit pushing forward. He never quit moving forward. He always, from caves to everything else. And if I could leave anything with anybody, it'd lean on that. God called him to do that. What's he calling you to do?
I love also that you said that he calls us to do all kinds of things. You know, some people listening might go, well, clearing land, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very holy work. It's not like being a preacher.
Yeah.
And it's just such a lie. It's such a lie, because he has people all over the world doing all sorts of different things that make the world a better place. That I love the way that you describe your business. It allows people to have a place of peace where they can maybe get closer to God, maybe get closer to the people they love, maybe get closer and build relationships with people they don't know yet. I just think it's beautiful, making a beautiful place of what used to be just grown over grounds is a stewarding the gifts of God, and it's a beautiful thing. So if you're listening today to this, you might think, your dream isn't that big a deal. Your dream isn't that godly. Why would God be interested in this? I would just double down on what Brian said. Quit ignoring God's calling. If he's calling, you don't know what he's going to do with that little dream that you think is so little. Every step in his trusting him and having faith in him is a big step. And don't underestimate the scope of your dream because you're comparing it to someone else's. I mean, Brian didn't start where he is today. If you go to see his house and look outside, he didn't always have that property. He didn't always have all that equipment. God has provided that as he has stepped forward so that he can keep doing the work. So don't underestimate yourself, those of you who are listening. Brian, I really appreciate it. This has been a very refreshing conversation. It's been a great encouragement to me. Even in the middle of my entrepreneurial journey, there's times when I am tempted to quit, when I'm tempted to pull back, to not go forward, when I get discouraged because things aren't turning out the way I thought they would. Thank you for pointing me back to the author of the dream.
Amen.
And the trust in him. I'm very grateful for that, and I'm going to keep helping people with their dreams because I know that's what God's called me to. So, thank you so much. How can people? I know you've worked in Texas. You worked with a contractor from North Carolina, and you've talked about things being bigger. So maybe you're even interested in going to states beyond Texas. I don't know. How can people get in touch with you or find out more about what you're doing or what you're up to?
They can either go to the website, which would be www.theperfectgrounds.com. So it's THE. Or they can look us up on Facebook. It's Perfect Grounds LLC. Or they can call my phone directly. I don't care for the entire world to have that. 865-363-7133. Love to speak with anyone at any given point about any part of it. Because those who would think that not clearing land or what their dream is not ministry, never hide your faith. I pray with my men. I pray with my customers. I pray with those that we work for. It's important, and that's why we're there.
I love it. Well, what a joy to meet you. I feel like I found another brother in Tennessee, and I'm very grateful for that. Blessings on your journey. Keep taking those steps forward. Keep boldly proclaiming the source of the dream. I wish you nothing but the best. And thank you for the vulnerability and sharing your story. And I pray that it'll be a great encouragement to many people. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Be blessed.
Hey, fellow dreamer. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Head over to my website, jeffmeyer.org, for all of the show notes and links. And when you're ready to move from overthinking about your dream to actually taking action on it, consider joining the Dream Accelerator community. Our clients are getting crystal clear on their dream with our Dream Generator Vivid Description 5-step process. They're discovering the truth about fear and how to use it as fuel to take courageous steps in the right direction. And most importantly, they are walking a clear path forward because they have made an investment in themselves to confidently realize their dreams. The results are so inspiring. Having coaching and companions on the dream journey is crucial. Remember, fear will come, fear will stay. Move forward anyway.